So you kind of know if you're going to step into my studio that you're going to run into some antique vintage weirdness going on. I was always the kid that was in trouble in school because I was too busy doodling in my notebook or reading a book. I was either reading or doodling. So
When I was 5, I lived with a mother and father and older brother.
At least I could draw, I told myself.
It was just me, my cats, and my imagination.
Created protective cover, just enough where he could keep his underwear on.
Tonight, we have with us artist Miss Jess Holeman. And I have a little blurb I'm going to read here. I pulled this off of your stuff, Jess. Jessica Holeman is a multi-genre artist born and raised in Caney, Kansas. Her beginnings in art started young at the age of 5. She was mostly self-taught until high school, where she focused her chosen classes on art studies. She began competing locally and statewide, mostly in pen and ink, pencil and charcoal. She was the recipient of the Kansas State Artist Masters Medal several years in a row, along with numerous Grand Champion, Reserve, and People's Choice ribbons and plaques. Her art shifted to computer graphics during her college years, where she also gained proficiency in painting, sculpting, and stained glass. Realizing pursuing a singular field of art was not for her, she left college to work in many mediums. She began using her skills for multiple services, including logo and album art for bands in Kansas City, Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Washington State, commissioned portraits and paintings, tattoo designs, business signage and logos, and later added muralists to her credits. She also gained awards in local and state art competitions and had a selection of artist cards featured in an exhibition in the Richmond Art Gallery of British Columbia in 2011. Later that year, she was introduced to the assemblage art of Michael Demang, an artist who used his assemblages to tell a story based on mythologies and fantasies. She immediately took to the medium, having found an outlet for all of her varying skills. With her love of history, antiques, and quirky sense of self, she began her path of assemblage art. She has shown at many art competitions and sells her pieces both online and at various arts and crafts shows throughout the year. Her current in-house studio is called Curious Relics Studio. Current pieces being made for sale are offered on her Facebook page of the same name. So yay, just a little bit about Jess there. I know Jess because we live in the same town, and we've been really good friends for the past 12, 13 years.
12, yeah.
Somewhere
around there.
Yeah. So she's in all the paranormal stuff with me, and she and I run Bordertown Strange podcast together as well. So woohoo.
Yay.
Yeah. So just starting out, Jess, what would you like us to know about you?
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I'm a weirdo. So
Yay.
I don't know how much you want to know about me.
Well, one question we always ask, and again, you said you sort of knew something at 5 years old. And I'm always curious, when at that young moment, that you can remember way back when, did you know that you were a weirdo or different or whatever we call it today, in your 5-year-old mind, whatever a 5-year-old calls it?
Well, I knew even before I was 5 that I was going to be doing something fun and artsy with my life. I grew up in a family who was very dedicated to the arts. My grandfather was an artist, and he was consistently showing at fairs and art competitions, and I was always right there tagging along, helping him frame stuff and get things put in. And I'd always wanted to kind of like follow his lead. I'd always wanted to be, I would doodle on every little scrap of paper I could find. And my grandmother was quite willing to shove scrap paper and crayons into my hand any moment and kind of pushed me along. And in fact, my grandmother was the first one who suggested that I enter one of those competitions with my grandfather. They had a young child's section that they could enter. And she was like, well, do something, draw something, and we'll put it in with Grandpa's piece. And I was like, oh no.
That must have been so exciting.
It really was. I think I got like a second place ribbon that time, but I caught the bug is what happened.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't think I started out being very proficient in art. I didn't have this uncanny talent in front of me to suddenly just be able to draw these wonderful things. I worked really hard. I was not a great artist, you know, at 5, and I struggled just like any artist does, learning techniques and how to use different things. But it was the love of it that pushed me along. I kept going back at it. And before too long, that's all I was doing. I was always the kid that was in trouble in school because I was too busy doodling in my notebook or reading a book. I was either reading or doodling. So
yeah. But that's a wonderful beginning. And I too, I've always had to work really hard at whatever art craft I've been doing, including I'm a psychotherapist, which is an art more than a science, I think. And, I have to work at it. And I'm a writer now, as is Val, and we have to work really hard at it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't come like, first draft is ready to go.
Yeah.
Jess and I both know writing's hard.
Writing is incredibly hard. I have tried to dabble in that particular medium, and I am not good at it at all. So I will leave that.
You're certainly good at what you do, I must say.
He is. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the slideshow that we have with some of Justin's work, and we can talk through it as we go.
Yeah.
Cute. And Curious Relics is the name of your studio. How did you come up with that name?
Yes. I was when I started the Curious Relics studio, like the page, I was looking for something that would kind of encompass my assemblages. It's really devoted to my assemblages. You'll find more of my paintings and murals and things like that on my private page. But it kind of, I love the name because it kind of encompasses everything I do. So the stuff I do is a little weird and off kilter and fun. So you've kind of got the curious going on. But I also have a great love for history and vintage and antiques. And I love to incorporate those in together. I love to put two juxtaposing pieces together and let them tell a hilarious or fun story. So Curious Relics just kind of worked perfectly. So you kind of know if you're going to step into my studio that you're going to run into some antique vintage weirdness going on.
Now, some of these that we're going to see were part of a show that you had recently can you tell us a little bit about the show itself?
Yeah, so I was the summer artist in residence at the Bartlesville Price Tower for about 3 months, I believe. It was actually my first solo show. And how many pieces do I have? 26 pieces, I believe, were in the show. It was all based on Victorian through industrial age, and you can kind of get an inkling of some of my quirkiness here. I love to throw pieces together you wouldn't expect. This is actually one of the larger pieces. This one's about 3.5 feet wide. And the framing that you see there is actually turned on its side. It was once the frame for a large mirror on the back of a dresser.
It's really cool. And I love how you can just get lost in the little details, especially.
Absolutely. It draws you in. And I too love juxtaposing two kind of opposites and sort of that are allies as well, and see what happens. It really promotes that curiosity. It is amazing, and I can see how you would be drawn in. And of course, it's an eye, so our eye is, drawn into the eye. It's quite wonderful.
Yeah.
I love how you have the shape there. And I love the, dichotomy. A friend of mine named one of her pieces. After I was always talking about dichotomy, and I definitely see that here, the duality and stuff like that. I love how you take the natural shape of the mirror.
Yeah.
And it's like a natural shape of an eye.
It does. Yeah.
That's using what you have. And I think that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the imagination that goes into so many of your pieces. I think that's just.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed the show. The woman who curates at the tower, or curated, I don't know if she's, I don't think she's there any longer. But she allowed me to actually put my pre-sketches into the show too. So they
I
show
like that.
alongside.
I love that idea, to see the making of
Yes.
a work of art.
That's why I
think
wanted to make
that's
sure
great.
we added those in, because it's just so cool to see.
That is
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
This one's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
As we hit these,
Yeah.
just kind of, if you don't mind explaining a little bit about them as we hit the page.
Okay, so this one, this was actually the very first piece that I made for this solo show. And it was kind of a tribute to the show and to the lady who asked me to come on and do the show. She really enjoyed how I kind of worked animatronics and things into my pieces. They don't function. I'm just going to say that, by the way. I am not an electrician or anything like that, for that matter. But she was like, I really love your pieces that look mechanical, that look like they're going to get ready to work. Like you could turn a switch and they would start to function. So I kind of made this piece in her honor and to start the show off with. And it's based on the very first animatronic ever made. And it was a chessboard that kind of worked on its own. And it's a little hard to see in this picture here, but if you could look under her dress and into the checkerboard there, you would see that on every chess piece is a name and a date. And it's the name of every person who invented a new piece for animatronics. So, a new system would come in, like the beautiful swan that everybody knows about, the royal swan, where the wings open up and they move and the music plays. I believe that's in Great Britain somewhere. The gentleman who invented that, his name is in there along with the date. It's one of the little things I love to do. I love history so much. I kind of slide those in there. So for like the artsy sleuth, you're going to find some little tidbits and fun things. If you look up dates and things that you might find along in my artwork, you're going to find the history that the pieces are based on. But her skirt is full of little cogs and gears and all sorts of fun stuff. The breastplate is part of a coin operated I can't think of the name of it. A parking
meter.
It's a meter. Yeah. 1 hour meter.
1 hour.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But and she's also lit from the inside. She has a light.
It looks like there's a light in there. Yeah.
Oh, she's awesome.
She is awesome. Now, how big is she? Just to get a sense of scale.
Her base is around 3.5 feet. She's very large.
She's quite large. Yes.
She is.
Yeah.
I was actually taking advantage. It's the first time that I've had a full solo show where I could really just make the pieces how I've always wanted them. And Pam knows this. We do a lot of the small little arts and crafts shows throughout the year, and you can't take large pieces with you. They're looking for little fun things they can take along with them. So I don't often get the chance, unless I'm doing a large commission for someone, to do these big, magnificent, fun pieces. So I took advantage of it.
It's beautiful.
It's almost like she's royalty. Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Because she has underneath the checkerboard, you have the knight and the castle and you have the pawn.
Oh, yeah.
Of the
Mhm.
inner workings of her, all the people that came up and made her, so yeah, that's clever, definitely clever.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite pieces. I love sun and moon and stars, and who doesn't? It's
Yeah.
something so much fun to play with.
Mhm.
And this one actually, this one has so many pieces in it. The framing that you see up front is actually off of the 60s, 70s headboard for a bed.
Oh, so that's quite large too. This is very large.
It's about 2 by 2. I would
Okay.
say
Oh,
2 feet by
okay.
2 feet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not extraordinarily large.
Mhm.
It would have set with 3. I jigged out the middle section of it and
Mhm.
reused it. It was falling apart. Something else I will also say, I never take apart anything that is still functioning, workable.
Mhm.
I will only take apart things that are broken down and not usable anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, a lot of people think that I take apart beautiful old clocks and stuff like that. And I'm only if they've died, only if the gears have seized and it's not working anymore.
Mhm.
But this one was really fun. I couldn't find a moon anywhere, which is fine by me because I also like sculpting. So the moon face is something I've actually sculpted.
Oh no, the moon is wonderful, and I agree with you. It's rare to find a moon face that is really good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this is a wonderful one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The planets that look like marbles, those are also sculpted because I wasn't going to spend the time to try to cut a marble in half.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just sculpted. But it's a fun way to it's one of the fun things I like is about assemblage is that all of these different mediums that I've learned through the years, I get to use them all the time. I get to use my stained glass work and I get to use my sculpting that I learned. And even my computer graphics, sometimes I need a graphic in something that does not exist. So I get to invent it and print it off and add it into my work. So yeah.
I love that it looks like a window pane.
Yeah. Kind of like you're getting to peek in.
Like you're like,
absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Like a window pane. Like if you was to open your curtain a little bit, there it would be,
Yeah.
So it's very, very real.
And I like right here where you can see it. It almost looks like
the moon's fantastic.
Yeah, it's the earth with like a big city, just all the buildings poking up. Very cool.
Yeah, it is.
We have quite a few, so I'm kind of gonna move through.
Okay.
I can't speed this
I love
up.
this.
This was incredible.
I love this so much.
Yeah, my husband is a musician. He doesn't play the guitar, he plays the drums, but there was a very long time he toured and I would go along with the band and sell merchandise and stuff for them or whatever. So I was around music a lot. And I did this one at the tail end of one of his last bands. It was actually done on a dare. One of the guys in the band said, "Will you never do anything music related?" So I was like, "Well, here we go."
No, and I bet they loved it.
They did. What you can't tell here is that it's actually strung. So that was I always give myself kind
it
of
looks it looks like it is
Yeah.
strung. It does. Yeah, it does.
I like to give myself like a little goal on each piece so that there's something just kind of unique about each piece. And on this one, I decided that I really truly wanted to string it with real guitar strings. So, oh, good Lord, that took me a while to figure out how to get the tensions right on it and stuff. But it's one of my pieces I'm so proud of. And actually, I think I did this piece back in 2017, I believe it is.
Probably.
Yeah. And this last summer when I had my solo exhibition, the family who owns this gifted it back to me for a short while and put it on loan to hang in the gallery with everything else. And I was so happy to see that those strings were still tight. I was like, wow.
It's beautiful.
And did you collect all these little pieces just over time and
I did. Yeah, so they're everywhere, and you know, you can see behind me here. I
can
have
see, yes.
bins and bins full. I'm very lucky, and people know what I do. So I will often, I often get boxes left on my car. I will find boxes left on my porch. People will clean out like their junk drawers and just gift it to me, knowing full well that if I can't use it, it'll, you know, I'll pass it along or chuck it or whatever. But I get the best little doodads. Like, for instance, a few days ago, a lady brought me by a box, and it had some wonderful stuff in it. It's got like little baby dolls.
Yes. Yeah.
Little horse and rider.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Just this one I thought was really cool. It's an old chauffeur's button from California.
Nice.
That's great.
But I have gotten very, very lucky, and people, instead of thinking I'm completely strange, kind of encourage my weirdness. So I very rarely run out. And I've also learned, if anyone at home is interested in taking up assemblage art and you're like, how do you get all this junk? I friend every flea market,
sure,
shop,
of course,
antique dealer owner is anywhere within 50 miles of me, and they always have a junk box in the back,
always
bits and pieces that have broken off of stuff, and they don't know what to do with it, but they hate to throw it away because they're collectors just like I am. And they are actually quite happy to have it going somewhere.
I bet
that's cool.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful.
Again, I love your use of space, and what I mean by that is how each piece that you put in there, it seems like it almost perfectly fits that space, and then it supports the other piece with it. It's like they're supported together, so that's like it definitely is a puzzle, and
that's exactly what it is. It's almost therapeutic when I do these pieces like this.
I'm sure,
because I'm just sitting with a big tray full of little bits and pieces, and it literally is. It's like, what do I want this section to say?
Right.
And how are these pieces going to fit in, and how are they going to work against each other? And it's the greatest fun. I'm sure it's probably tedious and ridiculous to some people. They would be like, you couldn't pay me enough to sit down and do that for hours on end, but I love it. So
I think I would love that too. I kind of like that putting together. I collect all kinds of things, and I never. And people say, "Oh, what are you looking for?" And I have no idea. I'll know it when I see it.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's how I shop too.
That's fun.
Oh,
I know. This one's
wonderful.
Beautiful too.
Wow.
I love how you've got the violin where it's opened it up with the honeycomb inside.
It's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually sat on that violin for about 3 years before I'd always wanted to do a piece with a violin, but I never found the right thing. And then I don't know, I don't even remember when I had this idea, but this one was a labor of love. This one took 2 years to make. Simply because all the flowers and everything are handmade.
Oh my goodness.
They're all paper.
They're lovely.
Well,
really
thank you.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah. That was my goal for this one. I wanted to learn how to work with paper and to do origami and to cut, and and let me tell you, there was a lot of really bad looking flowers that got thrown across my studio.
Yeah. But it's a whole learning process that goes on, and part of being an artist, I think, is a lot of that is just you learn as you go. You get an idea, and I really want to do something, and then you have to learn how to do it. And in writing, I do a lot of historical research too, and I love that as much as the writing. if maybe
Yeah.
at times not. I
hard to
love it.
stop.
I always want to find interesting, unknown little pieces of history that people don't know about.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
it's like
I-
a treasure hunt.
Mhm.
What I
Yeah,
love
it's like a
about this
treasure
is,
hunt. Yes.
Sorry.
That is lovely. It's really lovely.
I like that I think the violin, I've always loved the violin. I've had a love affair with the violin for a long, long time. And what I love about the violin is it's just the beauty of it. And it is just so, it catapults you into another existence. I think it's one of the most beautiful, underrated instruments. And
Yeah.
when I look at this, it's beauty. It just puts together like this beauty element for me
The
that
shape of a violin is beautiful.
it's just so
It is.
appropriate for it. So I really appreciate this piece
Yeah.
very much. So
Yeah.
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 It's gorgeous.
It's one of my favorites, and I saved the bow. You can see it in the first picture right off to the side there. It actually hangs with it. And interestingly
you have
enough,
it
I
right
did
there, yes.
learn. Yeah, I learned a lot making this piece, besides having to learn how to make all the paper flowers. And it's a little hard to tell, but inside the violin is honeycomb. So I had to learn how to create
I
those.
thought that's what
That's
I
what I
saw
thought that
that.
was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
I also of course the violin was broken when I bought it. I think I got it for like $3 at a garage sale. It was busted in the back. It couldn't be repaired. But I wanted it strong. And I had to take some courses online to learn how to repair and string a violin. So
Yep.
now I know how to do that, even though
And then the honeycomb, how did you figure out how to get that in there? How did you do that?
well, I actually I took some online courses when I was doing my origami and learning how to make the paper flowers and things like that. And they had classes for different shapes, and one of them was for honeycombs. And basically, it was sitting here and meticulously cutting out. They're actually pieces of sheet music, so I cut out pieces of sheet music into particular rectangles, and then with a they call it a planer knife that pushes down into the paper without cutting it, so you could put your nice clean edge in there, hitting it with a measuring tape and catching it, and then sitting there and folding each one.
Dang.
And then gluing it into the next one. So I would sit there, I would sit in the evenings and just build honeycombs out and keep fixing them until they were in the correct shape to slide down in there. So yeah, it was just long hours.
I know why
learning
it
a
looks
lot
like a
too.
cameo.
These are things I didn't know. Very cool.
Wouldn't that be a cool cameo
Yes.
necklace?
Yes. It'd be hard to wear though. It's pretty big.
I know, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it reminds me of a really cool cameo if it was smaller.
Yes. Be so beautiful as one.
Mhm.
I love this one. I just love
This is great.
the quirkiness, and the cuteness.
Yeah, this is one of my very quirky pieces. So sometimes I'll find a piece that I love and then work everything else around it. So the piece on here, of course, is the little girl. I've held on to her for years. If you can look behind me here, like my whole studio is full from floor to ceiling with every little fun. If I see a weird, fun little doodad out and about, it will often end up on a shelf or on my wall, and it becomes like a little muse for me. And sometimes those pieces will make it into a piece. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just stay with me forever. But she hung out on my walls for a little while. And one day I was looking at her and I was like, nope, it's time for you to find a new home. So I had this gorgeous wood frame that you see there.
Yes.
It had been sitting around for a while, but had not found its place yet. I talk about it like they're my kids. They haven't found a place yet. But I was like, yeah. I had decided, I was like, nope, this is going to be her spot. And I started kind of laying it out, and I was like, she's the cutest little girl with her cute little knees sticking out. She definitely needs a tea party. and she would
Yeah.
probably make
Yes.
her parents come to her tea party. So that's
Yes.
kind of what
Right.
this one is based on. And I thought, wouldn't it be cute if she didn't, she wouldn't, of course, set it up in her own room. She'd want it to be special. So she would have set it up in the fancy guest room. And I just imagined this entire scenario going down. And that's kind of how this piece came together.
At what era do you think she is actually, you know?
I believe she's probably from the 20s, 30s, probably somewhere in there. But of course, in my head, time doesn't really exist. So they all get to meld together. So I'm sure the tintypes are probably from the late 1800s. The little tea set is from the 50s, I believe. I got a huge collection of little China tea sets from a lady who was trying to downsize. So yeah, just one of my quirkier pieces. And a little known, if you look at the second one, the second picture there, that's a little up close. One of my weird habits, I like for everything to be done properly, even if it's not going to be seen. If you could take her and the china and the photos and all of that stuff off of there, you would find underneath that there is a full green landscape behind her that I painted.
Oh my
You can see a little bit of the trees and stuff. I wanted it to look like the very old murals you used to find in those early turn of the century homes, in the grander homes. You know, they would have the whole dining room wall that was the grand landscape, and that's what I wanted behind her. Can't really see it, but I know it's back.
Well, no, now that you pointed it out, it's there. Yeah, it's there, and you would have to have an exquisite attention to detail to do what you do, and the patience it must take. Oh my goodness.
Right? Beautiful.
It is. Yeah, it's charming.
Thank you.
Oh, he's
wonderful. This is my favorite, but I love him too.
He's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm fond of making rabbits. It's they're one of my favorites. I've done little pop-ups and things with rabbits and stuff. This one, I've been holding on. It's a clock casing, a large clock casing that had long lost its clock, and I thought, you know, it looks like a little puppet show or a theater stage.
It definitely does.
Yeah, so that's where it went off of. And originally, you can see it in my drawing, I actually intended for it to be a bird.
Oh, yeah.
But as I started working on it, I soon realized, I was like, no, this one's not for a bird. And I don't know why I thought that, but
but that's what artists do. You know, things morph.
Yeah.
You know, they don't always start and end where you thought they were going to. Yeah.
They tell you
and this one, exactly. That's exactly what happened. Like, I was like, the bird does not belong here. The bunny belongs here.
Yeah, he belongs.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I'd actually been working off of, if you look down below him on the front of the stage is an actual clock face, and inside of that is a little tintype of a young girl. And she was my inspiration for this. I was like, if she had her own puppet show, what would she want to see?
What would she?
So yeah.
Nice.
His ears are to die for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's just adorable.
Yeah.
I love your blueprint, or your blueprints too, like where you're starting from, and then you can see. And what's really neat is, you know, like Jan, you know, said, you know, it's like things morph into other things. Like you're going to start out with the side, and then you have, you know, it's still in there, but then it's morphed into something else, and then it's taken its own persona.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Very
I love it.
I love him too. He's so cool. And I love this one too. I was like, hey Jess, send me some of your favorites, you know, that you really want to showcase. And she was like, why don't you just pick some? And I was like, oh, I can do that. And then I'm like, well, now I know why she wanted me to do it. This is hard.
Yeah.
I would do. I've got lots that I've done over the years. So I was like, I'm not going to sit here and pick. And I can't really pick favorites because that's like picking your favorite child.
Yep.
So, you know.
It is. Yes. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and this is just one of my, I used to make these a lot. I don't make them as much anymore. I made this one for the show because I wanted to kind of nod at some of my beginnings.
Mhm.
I call them my astrolabs. And they're just fun as heck to make because you can make these out of anything. If you look in there, there's like 1,001 things that have absolutely nothing to do with space.
Uh-huh.
And I'd actually been sitting on, someone had given me, what it's sitting in is one of those old fashioned coil heaters.
Oh my, that's interesting. Oh.
And I just gutted
Yeah.
it. So I had this,
Yeah.
you know, I had this dome that's set up on its own with this really heavy base. And I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I was like, I'm going to make an astrolab. And the only thing I'm a little sad about is I used, if you look back behind, the first layer there is a beautiful hand painted bowl with a snake handle.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
It is beautiful.
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
it is. But
Yes.
I felt terrible after I got it all put together and looked at it because I was like, the really pretty part of it was on the inside, and I thought it would show up better than what it does, and it doesn't. It completely hides it. But I was like, oh well.
Yeah.
But it's just another layer, you know, that when you really get to looking at it.
Well, like the painting and the background of, you know, the little doll.
Yeah.
It's there. And there's something about that. It's there and it adds to the layered quality of all your pieces.
It's the
Well,
fun.
thank you.
Yeah.
That's one of the
I will
funnest
say-
things about your pieces, Jess, is the more you look at them, the more you see.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It reminds me of a contraption, like if you was to push it and the world would blow up or something.
Yeah, like the
Like
world
a
will blow up.
laser.
There we go.
I hope not. But I will say, so I like to leave, even though my pieces don't actually function, like you can't plug them in and they'll go like you think that they're going to. I do like to make sure that they at least function partially. So all of these pieces do turn. You can turn it and put them in any kind of configuration you want. In fact, I believe the configuration this is in this picture, this is at the tower when it was on the display. I believe that the lady who ran the this show for me set this up this way because I told her, I was like, just play with it and set it up in some way you think is really eye-catching. So
Cool. Very cool. I like this one too.
Robot. Captain.
okay, well, so the middle one is a different piece.
It is, isn't it? I
Okay.
just realized that.
Oh,
That's my bad.
Yeah, it is.
It's okay.
Whoops.
So the large piece on the each side there, I had it's actually an accordion under there, the main section of it.
Oh my goodness. Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Someone had gifted me this broken accordion. I actually sat on it for many years before I got to use it for this, but I had kind of wanted to make something like an old hurdy-gurdy or like you know, one of those music grinders with the dancing monkey would have. But I gave it kind of this oriental flair to it too. And I made sure all the keys still work, so you can push the keys around and everything. This one was a beast for me. It's very heavy. It's actually less heavy than when I originally made it. I took it apart and remade it again to get it to be lighter because you couldn't move this thing for nothing. Accordions are heavy, in case you don't know.
They're very heavy. Yes.
They're very, very heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one is like kind of an amalgamation. Like for me, it represents like that hurdy-gurdy, the street grinder, and also a carousel organ, all at the same time. I kind of have the nod to the carousel. I have the little antique jumping ponies that are on there. a fantastic find. I found it a little
Oh, I
flea
bet.
market
I
one day.
bet. No,
Yeah.
it evokes all of that. It really does.
I kind of see like Chinese soldiers almost, how they walk, if you ever,
Oh, right.
Chinese,
Yeah.
like it's the legs like almost moving like in
Mhm.
perfect,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
unison,
Hmm.
like, so yeah, it really takes on a lot of different dimensions and
Mhm.
Ah,
Yeah.
uses.
I was really excited too. I finally had a way to use the spires that come up the side and up the top. Those are old wooden insulators, the turns that you
Oh,
would put into the glass insulators. And
oh
I
my
have
goodness.
buckets of them. I was like, yay! I
Yeah.
have something I could do with
Mm.
these. So yeah, it's one of my favorite pieces. The piece in the middle now, it's actually a mantle clock flipped
Mhm.
upside down
Oh,
to
okay.
create a shell.
I see that. Yes.
Yeah, and inside of it,
the bee.
I had a little whole thing where I did a lot of honeybees, and you could see the honeybees in the violin piece that we looked at, and there's honeybees in these, and the bees are mechanical. They don't work, but they're made out of bolts and screws and
That's so cool.
little bits and pieces of
Oh
metal.
my goodness.
And then the wings are made out of hand pressed vellum.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
yeah.
Mm.
And the honey, I spent a month trying to get the concoction right so that it would drip, but dry, still looking wet.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I'm pretty proud.
Yeah.
I'm pretty proud of the honey.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing. It's the little bitty details that you miss until you tell the story behind them too.
I know.
Right.
Yeah. And they are. They're each one is a whole story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah.
So cool. These I ended up these weren't in that show in particular, but she does a lot of different holiday things too. So I wanted to make sure we included those.
Yeah.
Oh,
I do
wonderful.
Halloween and Christmas and
So
Oh yeah.
it's all adorable.
I
Yeah.
love that, the spider one up the top right.
oh, the clock. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love that. I think that's great.
I'm looking at the rat.
Thank you.
He's cute.
Yes.
Yeah, they're part of my littles. Like I was talking about before, Pam and I do these arts and craft shows. And of course you have to have these smaller ones. So I'm actually getting ready for one right now. I was sewing backstage, working on some ornaments and stuff.
Mhm.
And in fact,
Yeah,
I have
show.
a piece that I just finished. To see if I can get to it. It's behind me. I just finished it last night.
Oh, nice.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness. Yes.
Right? So it's got the little wheels and the
Oh
little
my
driver.
goodness.
He's got the
Oh
little,
wow, that's
awesome.
charming. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Very cool.
so
Nice. I like it.
Well, Jess, you're really a visionary. You're a visionary.
Yeah.
oh, well, thank you.
God.
And no, absolutely. You take an idea, you have a vision, and you make it come alive, so
Absolutely
that's
she does. This is a
talented.
little
Yeah,
Christmassy.
some of my Christmas stuff, my little hot air balloons I make out of vintage bulbs. And,
Those are so popular too. She announced the
yeah.
of those.
Oh gosh.
And these
Another,
I just love the little
Yeah.
shaker.
I do too. I
yeah,
do
those
too.
are made out of little salt and pepper shakers.
Mm.
One of my favorite up there at the top in the middle, those are those old vintage wooden ornaments people used to have sets of, like a little Santa and
Yes.
a, Mrs. Claus and stuff like that. I save those from garage sales and stuff, and I strip them down and then repaint them, and I make them all steampunk.
Mm.
So they look like little robots, and
Yeah.
it's super fun, and it gives them a new life. People
It
Yeah,
does.
people love them.
The little
absolutely.
nutcrackers, they're the best. And she does,
Mhm.
I don't know if you can see right here, the bigger nutcrackers.
Yes.
Mhm.
Those are
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
She's seen
That's
those.
really cool.
Love it.
Yeah.
So cool.
Mhm.
Fun stuff. Oh, you definitely have to tell about this one.
Yes.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, FX's Reservation Dogs,
Oh
the TV
yes.
show,
Yeah.
they recorded that. They filmed that in just outside of Pahuska, which is about 20-25 minutes away from Bartlesville, and their production team and some of the actors on the shoots and stuff, they gave money to the Bartlesville Price Tower for their arts. They were kind of a supporter for a few years, and the tower wanted to thank them for their generosity, so they commissioned me to make 5 awards to hand out.
That's wonderful. My goodness.
Yeah, at their gala.
Oh, God. Yeah.
These were so fun to do. So they're actually, the history thing for me is what got me. So these are based on Bruce Gough's Shinnecoin, which was a fantastic, gorgeous building made out of cullet glass and tiles and copper. Unfortunately, it burnt down many years ago. But they did save a lot of the original glass cullet and a lot of the tile work and stuff like that and the iron work. And I got to go through that and pull pieces. And they also, they wanted it to respect the Gough Shinnecoin, and they wanted it to respect Frank Lloyd Wright's tower.
Well, it does. That's great.
Yeah, I got to blend those two, and I got to use those original pieces from the Shinnecoin. What you're looking at, the glass here, is what that house was made out of.
Okay.
There's little walls that were just this cullet glass. And so I got to use my stained glass work, and I polished glass for months. But I got to use I got to work with copper, and oh my gosh, it was so much fun making these. They handed these out, and they kept one to be kept at the tower, and it's become part of the Frank Lloyd Wright collection. Representing the tower. So it was a great honor for me to be asked. And I was up against 2 other artists, so I won it with my sketches.
That's great.
And you've heard us talk about the Price Tower a little bit, and Frank Lloyd Wright. In Bartlesville that is what the Price Tower is. It's Frank Lloyd Wright's only high rise. Yeah, that he ever made. And it's in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Wow. It's an incredible building.
Yeah, these pieces, it was fun. I called them Copper Leaves and a Faraway Heart, because Frank Lloyd Wright's tower was based on a tree made of copper. Copper leaves is all through the building. And then Shinnecoin means a faraway heart. So yeah,
perfect.
Copper leaves and a faraway heart.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, super fun.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, here's some more of your smalls. I had to put all these.
Yeah, some more of my smalls.
Oh,
there's another bunny in there. The bunnies rear their ugly heads. Okay,
the bunnies are wonderful,
aren't they? And just, I mean, look at this. Look at the little, gosh, it's the skate that is turned into the little vehicle. I just love it.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones, up at the top, the little circus set that's there. The tallest guy in the middle. I had so much fun with this because a family member had brought me one of those old metal ball floats out of a toilet.
Oh gosh, yes.
That's what that is.
They brought it, yes. That's what they brought it to me as a joke. They were like, ha ha ha, here's some junk for you. See what you can do with that.
Yeah,
really expecting me to get grossed out and throw it away. And I was like, I'm doing something with this. And my mother ended up falling in love with it so much. I didn't realize she'd done it, but she bought it. And now it's on her mantle. So the family member gets to like grin.
Out of the toilet onto the mantle.
That is funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's great.
And then
I love this is great.
Yeah, these are just beautiful.
Yeah, this is some of my acrylics that I've done over the years. I really like, as you can see, I really like to work in black and whites and sepias. I think it's a little bit more of a challenge than color for me. I don't know why that is.
No, I think you're right.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
This one right here, it hangs over my dining room table.
Oh,
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
And
oh, it's
the
great.
one in the middle at the top is the old
Southwestern Bell.
thank you. I was thinking Ma Bell and I couldn't think of what it was really called.
Mhm.
That was the telephone company in Katy. And it ended up being this city hall later. And then after they left, the building was condemned and torn down. And that's where the library where I work at stands today, is on the same.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Isn't it? It's so sad they tore it down because you're never going to see buildings like
you're
that.
not. It was in very poor shape though, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah.
And down in the corner, that the street view, that's downtown Katy, what, in the 40s or 50s maybe?
Yeah.
Looks like 40s. The cars look
Cars
40s or
Yeah.
even 30s, maybe.
could be, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very large piece. That one is 4.5 feet wide.
Boy.
I did that as a fundraiser for our town. We have a big, huge May Fest that we put on every year, and we lost funding for it one year. So I hurriedly, it took about a month, put this one together.
That's pretty
so they could
fast,
raffle it
though.
off.
Really
Yeah.
fast.
It is, but that's all I worked on too. Like I
Yeah,
got
yeah,
up in the morning
steadily.
and that's what I did. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the top left's my favorite. I told you that. The top left, I really like that. Almost like,
Yeah.
an archangel, guardian angel.
Mhm.
Is that the gates south of Bartlesville? Is that what that one's off of?
No, so that is the gate off of one of the family plots up at El Cato.
Oh, I knew I recognized it. I was thinking it was down by the hanging tree, but okay.
Yeah, it's actually not even there anymore. The family had it removed, and that piece right there is charcoal.
It's beautiful.
Really?
That's not painted. Yeah, that's charcoal.
My goodness.
Gorgeous.
Beautiful stuff.
Mm,
I
mm.
love this. This is your mom and your daughter, is that correct?
She is, yeah. Like I was talking about earlier. I toured with my husband. We did a lot on the weekends, and so my daughter would stay with friends of ours or with grandma. And this is one of I actually had dropped her off for a weekend, and they were getting in brand new cattle. She lives out in the rural area, and the farm hands were loading cattle into the pasture. So my mom had her up on the fence so she could watch the new cattle come in. And I took a picture of it and thought, man, this is
Wonderful.
yeah. And I actually gifted this, that painting is in my mother's house. I gave it to her
Oh,
as
that's
a birthday gift. Yeah.
okay.
Beautiful.
And now Raven, she's so tiny there. She's 21 now.
Yeah.
It's so adorable.
Mhm.
I love it.
Mm.
And then this is your Uncle John and his dog, right?
Yes, this is I did this for a little while. I didn't have a whole lot of money, so family members got paintings for Christmas and birthdays, and I
Well,
dug
how
into my
lucky they
grandmother's.
are.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I dug into my grandmother's old photos and found pictures of them when they were little, because I thought,
Hmm.
what better gift than having, something like this. And this is a
Yeah.
picture of my uncle with his favorite dog, passed out on the floor of my great grandmother's house. So
Mm.
yeah.
What a wonderful gift.
Yes.
Yes, I
Mm.
agree.
You can't beat that.
Mm-mm.
Oh, and then I added this in because Jess's next show coming up is November 23rd. It's actually in Sedan, Kansas. There's a little holiday pop-up shop. I'll be there too, so we'll both be hanging out and
Yeah.
it's a Gunner's Weeded Bourbon, which is fantastic on its own. Beautiful
Mhm.
building too.
I bet you're going to have a great time.
I hope so. They put us. Apparently, Pam and I are in the same room with Santa, so
Yeah.
we can hope
Okay.
that Santa grants us a good show.
Well,
So,
be good.
We'll try. I don't know.
yeah.
And then you guys can see behind, I did add
Oh,
it. I
gosh.
always think it's cool to see an artist space.
Oh,
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
love
Look
that
at my
tree
chaos.
picture. That tree
Yeah.
picture is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Well,
did
it's
that
a
one like
whole-
back in
it's a
high
whole-
school, I think.
Sort of assemblage in itself, your studio.
Yeah.
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 It's great.
But you can see on the walls, like no funky knickknack can get away from me.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I have drawers and drawers full. It's
I bet.
chaotic in here, but it's my chaos. I love it.
You're so
It actually
organized.
looks very organized to me.
You're organized. I'm
Really
a mess.
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
And
everything
all
I
of
do.
her things, a lot of these pictures are on her Facebook page, Curious Relic Studio Facebook page. And I did add Jess's email in here too. So if anybody's interested in her work, they can get a hold of her.
Yeah.
And are you still doing commissions and things?
I am. I do commissions all the time, and I can do just about anything. Besides the assemblages and paintings, I also do mural work. In fact, I did all the murals at the library where Pam works at. I've done it for the elementary school. I've done it from businesses. I do signage. I will basically do anything that you are willing to pay me for.
All right. Well, I very well may take you up on that. I collect all sorts of little things, and I'm going to think about it.
Nice.
Absolutely. That's actually some of my funnest commissions. I often get people who have like grandparents that have just passed, and they're like, we have this drawer full of grandpa's knickknacks that he had from when he was a boy, and we can't stand to throw them away, but what do you do with them?
What do you do? Yeah.
So I often take stuff like that, and I'm like, just give them to me, and I write down
And
all
do
their
your thing.
information.
That's
Yeah,
what
I'm
I
like,
would
you know,
do.
what was his favorite color? What was his favorite thing to do? Things like that. And then I create like something to represent them in some fashion. And I try with those, if they're keepsakes like that, nothing gets glued down or anything like that. I kind of present it in a way that they can be moved and touched. So yeah, those are some of my favorites.
That sounds wonderful.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Yay. Let me go ahead and stop this screen share here.
Okay.
There we go. Jess, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Absolutely.
I
was glad to be here.
Pleasure to meet you and to see your wonderful things. I mean, they're wonderful.
Well, thank you.
So I mean it. I'm going to think about something. I would love to have a commission done by you. So that would be wonderful.
Yay.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just let me know and we can work something out. And
I'm going to look around and see let me think about it. And then. Yeah.
She's done, she was talking about, Jess, you were talking about doing keepsakes from families. I remember the one that really sticks out in my mind that you did was, I can't remember if they were a doctor or what they were, but you made like a memory book, like one of the books that is the actual, like a box, basically.
Yeah.
That opens up and it had I remember their little spectacles in there. And
yeah, so I created that one in particular. Oh gosh, so much stuff, so much little stuff, like his pocket knife from when he was little, and the family had they were like, what do you can't display it, all these little doodads, and they were like, but we can't bear to throw them away or to give them away because these were this for him. So what I did was he was a doctor, and I took a medical book and pulled the insides out and created a box so it could sit on the shelf. It looked like a medical book, but when you pulled it out and opened it up, it became a desk on the inside with all these little drawers. And every time you pulled out another drawer, it was another little bit of his life, his Boy Scout stuff, and it had his name in there, and some of his graduation stuff was kind of added in. A little, they gave me one of his little notepads that they write their prescriptions on, and it had his signature on it, and kind of laid that in there with it, and it all became a thing. So they could literally just pull it off the shelf anytime they wanted and open it up, and it was as if they were getting into his desk at work. So
wow, that really makes me think, because my dad was a doctor, but his dad was a doctor, and he was the doctor in one small town in Pennsylvania. And I have his spectacles, and I have some of his, they're pill bottles, but there's actually powder in them. I just left it the way it is.
Wow.
And I got it somewhere. I will have to look where it all is, because stuff is all over. But So that makes me think.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. Just let me, I would love to put something together for you if you'd like. So
Keep memories alive, Jess. That's really, really important.
yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really
Absolutely.
unique gift. And I think you're extremely talented. And I'm going to think of something too, because what you do is very, very unique.
Very.
Yeah, very,
Thank
very.
you.
And so it's really, really wonderful to meet you. And I have your Facebook down here too, and I'm going to check out your stuff.
Awesome. It was so nice being on here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a real pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely.